In 1975, Chevrolet introduced an automobile that was supposed to save the reputation of the failed Vega model. And this automobile, which received the name Cosworth Vega, was produced from 1975 through 1976 model years, but sales barely reached 3,500 units for the entire production period, a level that was so catastrophically low that it became one of the most iconic failures in General Motors history. And one of the things that makes the Cosworth Vega particularly interesting is that it in some way represented the last desperate attempt by Chevrolet engineers to rehabilitate an automobile that by the mid-70s had already become synonymous with poor build quality, rust, and unreliability. Actually, the entire story of the Cosworth Vega began much earlier, back in 1969, when Chevrolet developed the original Vega as an answer to the growing popularity of imported automobiles, especially Japanese and German subcompacts. The car weighed significantly less than traditional American cars and was equipped with a revolutionary aluminum engine with a single overhead camshaft that was supposed to be lightweight and economical. And, as I mentioned earlier, the Vega retained a number of innovative technical solutions, but did so, I would say, with catastrophic consequences for its own reputation. Problems began almost immediately after production started at the Lordstown, Ohio plant in 1971. This plant was specially modernized for Vega production with an annual capacity of 400,000 units, using Unimate robots for body welding, an unprecedented level of automation for that time. But that's exactly where the first problems were hiding. When the car was dipped in the primer bath, air pockets formed in the cavities of the upper portions of the front fenders, which prevented the primer from reaching bare metal, and these unprotected surfaces began to oxidize almost immediately. The situation was exacerbated by the fact that General Motors, seeking to save costs, refused to use plastic fender liners. Water, salt, and sand were thrown directly into the wheel wells and lower body panels, prime areas for corrosion. And this wasn't some insignificant problem. In northeastern states, where roads were heavily salted in winter, it was common to see Vegas with rusted-through front fenders after just 1 or 2 seasons of operation. Even in states like California or Arizona, where rust was almost unknown, Vega owners would see corrosion eating away at their cars. But body problems were only the tip of the iceberg. The Vega engine, displacing 139 cubic inches, or 2.3 liters, was a die-cast aluminum cylinder block with a cast-iron cylinder head and single overhead camshaft. And here, GM engineers encountered a fundamental physics problem. Aluminum and cast iron have completely different coefficients of thermal expansion. Simply put, for every inch that cast iron wants to expand when heated, aluminum wants to expand 2 inches. When the engine overheated, which happened frequently due to an inadequate cooling system, the aluminum side expanded faster than the cast iron side, creating enormous stress on the head gasket. This eventually caused it to fail. And since aluminum is softer than cast iron, severe overheating could also cause the aluminum to warp, resulting in permanent damage. Lowell Dodge, director of the Center for Auto Safety, even testified before Congress about this overheating issue caused by the mismatch between the cast iron head and aluminum block. But that's not all. The Vega cylinder block was made from a special A390 aluminum alloy with high silicon content. The cylinders had no liners. Instead, the pistons moved directly against the machined aluminum surface with exposed silicon that was supposed to provide a tough cylinder wall surface. When the engine got hot, the cylinders distorted, and the piston rings wore off this exposed silicon. The result was scuffing, scratching, and scoring of the cylinder surface. Once that happened, the engine lost compression and began burning oil. Moreover, the engine block itself was used to radiate some of the heat, since aluminum is a good conductor of heat. This allowed engineers to equip the Vega with a tiny radiator. Unfortunately, these engines both leaked and used oil, and dirt on the engine block soon destroyed its heat radiating capacity, causing more overheating and so on. It was a vicious cycle of self-destruction. By 1974, the Vega's reputation was so damaged that Chevrolet management understood that decisive measures were needed. And that's when they turned to the British engineering firm Cosworth Engineering, a legendary company that developed Formula One engines and was known for its high-performance power plants. The plan was ambitious: create a high-performance version of the Vega that could compete with European sports sedans like the BMW 2002. Chevrolet developed a fully aluminum inline four-cylinder engine displacing 122 cubic inches, or 1,999 cubic centimeters, and Cosworth designed a completely new cylinder head with dual overhead camshafts, 16 valves, and a removable cam carrier that also served as a guide for the valve lifters. The engine weighed 60 pounds, or about 27 kilograms, less than the standard single-cam Vega engine. It developed maximum power at 5,600 RPM and was redlined at 6,500 RPM, while the single overhead cam engine peaked at 4,400 RPM and ran to 5,000 RPM. The engine was equipped with a stainless steel exhaust header and, particularly significant for the time, a Bendix electronic fuel injection system with 4 injectors, an electronic control unit, 5 independent sensors, and 2 fuel pumps. The Cosworth Vega became the first Chevrolet passenger car with electronic fuel injection. This was revolutionary technology for an American mass-market automobile of the mid-70s. But even with all these advances, tighter emission regulations meant the motor had to be detuned, and ultimately, only 110 horsepower was available. This was significantly more than the 78 or 87 horsepower of the standard 1975 Vega engines, but still not the impressive number enthusiasts had hoped for. Originally, the car was intended to be silver with black trim, but when the Cosworth Vega finally appeared in dealer showrooms in the spring of 1975, every single first model year car was finished in a unique black and gold color scheme. This paint scheme was unavailable on any other Vega and gave the Cosworth a distinctive look. Gold paint covered special British-made 6-inch cast aluminum wheels with Chevy center caps. Gold stripes ran along the body, creating a sporty appearance. Wiper arms were painted black, which was another distinguishing feature. In 1976, buyers were finally offered a choice. Although standard Vegas were available in 14 colors, Cosworths could be ordered in only 8 colors plus black. A total of 637 non-black cars were produced in 1976 out of a total of 1,447 units. But this change came too late to save the program. The suspension included springs, shocks, and stabilizer bars from the Vega GT, with the rear stabilizer bar larger than the GT's. The car came with exclusive BR70-13 BSW radial tires. The package included a heavy-duty radiator and provisions for a fast steer option. Many contemporary tests praised the car's overall performance, particularly its balance and handling. Inside, the Cosworth Vega received bucket seats and a special dashboard with a tachometer and Cosworth emblems. Cosworth crest emblems could be found throughout the interior, just as Cadillac adorned its Eldorados with wreaths and crests. These were small touches, meant to remind buyers they were driving something special. And here's where the story takes a truly tragic turn. The Cosworth package made the Vega the second most expensive car in the entire Chevrolet lineup at $5,916. This was nearly twice the price of a standard Vega, a fact that Chevy's ad agency used in several advertisements for the car when it finally hit the street. In fact, the price was only $900 less than a 1975 Chevrolet Corvette. For that money, a buyer could purchase a genuine American sports car with a V8, not a subcompact with a troubled reputation. The approximately $6,000 price tag virtually guaranteed that Chevrolet would not reach its target of 5,000 units. Air conditioning, power steering, and power brakes were not offered at all, so the buyer was paying Corvette prices for a car without basic amenities. The engines were assembled in a special, clean room at the Tonawanda plant that was originally created for the aluminum 427 cubic inch ZL 1V8s. From that space came about 30 Cosworth Vega engines per day. The Lordstown sideline could assemble just 1.6 Cosworth Vegas per hour, while the regular Vega came off the line at 60 or more cars per hour. A total of 5,000 engines were built, but not all of them were used. In 1975, only 2,061 Cosworth Vegas were sold. A pilot run of 1976 models was built in September 1975, and volume production began in December 1975. For the entire 1976 year, 1,447 cars were built. In total, over 2 years of production, 3,508 units. This was fewer than the number of engines produced. And here's the key point. Even the most sophisticated Cosworth engine, even electronic fuel injection, even sport suspension and unique paint couldn't solve the fundamental problems that plagued the entire Vega line. The Cosworth Vega body suffered from the same catastrophic corrosion as regular models. The thin sheet metal, carelessly covered with anti-rust primer, the absence of fender liners, air pockets when dipped in the paint bath, all these production problems remained unsolved. Even in California or Arizona, where road salt wasn't used, Cosworth Vega owners watched as their exclusive black and gold cars began to rust. Fenders rotted, rocker panels deteriorated, the structure lost its integrity. And in northeastern states, the situation was simply catastrophic. Some owners saw rust through after just the first winter. And the engine? Yes. It was a completely new dual-cam engine from Cosworth. Yes, it had an all-aluminum construction without a cast-iron head, which should have solved the problem of different expansion coefficients. But the Vega's cooling system was still inadequate. The radiator, though heavy-duty, was still too small for effective heat dissipation. And although the Cosworth engine was more sophisticated, overheating could still occur during spirited driving or in hot climates. By 1976, the Vega received a new floor pan, rear suspension, and brakes from the Chevrolet Monza. General Motors was trying to fix the problems. In 1976, the standard Vega engine was redesigned and marketed as the Dura-Built 140, with improved coolant pathways, a redesigned cylinder head with quieter hydraulic valve lifters, and a new head gasket. The warranty was upgraded to 5 years or 60,000 miles. In August 1975, Chevrolet conducted an endurance test of 3 Vegas with the new Dura-Built 140 engines, driving 60,000 miles in 60 days through the deserts of California and Nevada. The test was successful. But it was too late. The reputation was destroyed. By the late 70s, Vegas were being scrapped en masse. The car that was supposed to capture the small car market for GM became a cautionary tale about what happens when cost savings eclipse quality. Today, the Cosworth Vega remains a unique and collectible piece of Chevrolet history, valued by enthusiasts for its engineering ambition and rarity. In fact, the Cosworth Vega is rarer than the 1963 Chevrolet Corvette Split Window. If when new, the Cosworth Vega was a car for the price of 2 regular Vegas, now it's worth about 10 standard Vegas. The typical price for a 1975 Cosworth Vega in good condition is around $12,200. It's easy to find low-mileage Cosworth Vegas. They attracted a modest cult following, and the best buy would be from a club member. These cars were often kept in garages, cherished as the special machines they were meant to be. But the Cosworth Vega story isn't just about a rare collectible automobile. It's a story about how even the most advanced engineering cannot fix fundamental production and quality control problems. It's a story about how reputation, once damaged, is almost impossible to restore, even with the help of a legendary British engineering firm. And it's a story about how a $6,000 price tag for a subcompact with rust and overheating problems was simply too high for American buyers of the 70s, who could get a Corvette for almost the same money. Ultimately, The Cosworth Vega was both a triumph of engineering thought and a monument to corporate short-sightedness. The black and gold paint was beautiful, the twin-cam engine was impressive, and the electronic fuel injection was revolutionary. But none of these things could hide the fact that underneath all that glitter, there was still a Vega. A car that rusted before your eyes and whose engine could fail at any moment. And that's why only 3,508 were sold out of the planned 5,000. And that's why the Cosworth Vega will forever remain in history as a golden failure. A beautiful, ambitious, and doomed attempt to save what could no longer be saved.